What's going on, YouTube? So a short time ago, we went hands-on with this important all-new model from Nissan, the new Kicks. But as you might be able to tell from the background, we are back home in Kentucky, where we have the chance to live with this new Nissan Kicks for a full week. So is this the best of the affordable SUVs you can buy? Well, let's go ahead and find out. Now, like always, we want to go ahead and start off with our spec dump and talk about what is under the hood. So this is now a 2-liter 4-cylinder engine making 141 horsepower. It's the only powertrain selection. That is going to be paired to a continuously variable transmission. You now have available all-wheel drive, and when you choose all-wheel drive, this gets 30 miles per gallon combined.
Now, of course, we'll be discussing our real-world fuel economy that we experience over the next week. We'll also be discussing things like our sound level reading back in our home state of Kentucky's roads. After that, we'll discuss resale and reliability.
But obviously, a big reason why people buy it in this segment is to get a stylish package. So let's go ahead and close up the hood, talk about this all-new exterior as well as the interior. Now, the previous generation Kicks was pretty cute, but this one here really, I think, dials up the style factor. Throughout the week, we have noticed that most people don't really think that this is an affordable model, like right from the start, because it does have those stylish finishes. That begins up here in the front. So one of the things you'll notice is this new generation is way more substantial looking. It's 1.6 inches wider. It also has substantially more ground clearance. We have over 8 inches of ground clearance, which Nissan says is class leading. The grille itself does have that gloss black finish on the top. You have black bars that run across through there. And we also have premium lighting as well. So this is a full LED unit, as you can see. That is going to be standard on all models. We also get an LED turn signal indicator, and then you have this cool stacked signature light on the SR trim. And as we move around to the back, it continues to have a pretty cool look to it.
Yeah, I think it's very handsome overall for this segment. It also has kind of a lot of three-dimensional pieces going on as well. Now, as far as some of the features, we have a spoiler, we have a wiper, and then let's take a look at our taillights, because I think that's one of the most impressive things about this Kicks is you saw the LED lighting up in the front. We also have LED lighting here in the rear. It's actually standard on all models, and it's full LED. So we have an LED brake light, LED turn signal, and LED reverse light. Some luxury cars don't even include that, so I'm so excited to tell you that here on this affordable Kicks. As we drop down to the lower part, this is going to be finished in a matte black as well as some body color, and overall I think it does have a very substantial SUV look to it.
Now moving on to the wheels, you have several different selections of sizes depending on which trim level you choose. It begins as low as 16-inch steel wheels with hubcaps, and you can work your way up all the way to 19-inch alloys, which come standard on the SR trim. This is actually an optional 19 for the SR, just with the full gray finish instead of the contrast design. Now you have a moderate amount of cladding around the wheel arches, as well as some on the lower moldings here. And as we come up to the mirrors, this could have a gloss black finish on certain models. You have standard blind spot monitoring, and then heating is available at the SV trim level and above.
Now at the side of the Kicks, you'll notice that it's about 172 inches long, which makes this feel like a more substantial SUV than what it was before, and that's because it is actually quite a bit longer. Also, I'll notice that it's quite a bit taller as well to give you that substantial feel. We also have a lot of cool design elements. I'm not sure if the camera will be able to see it, but we have some Kicks branding here in this floating pillar. And speaking of the roof, you can actually get 3 different colors on this Kicks to customize it to whatever design you'd like. There's a lot of really cool and funky colors that you can get. Now, as far as your safety systems are concerned, Nissan's really going to include the vast majority of them as standard equipment. It's going to actually include everything besides lane keeping assist as standard equipment on all models. If you choose the higher end models, that will add lane keeping assist, as well as Pro Pilot, which is your lane centering function for the adaptive cruise. But guys, let's go ahead and dive inside the cabin and talk about our impressions in there. But first, if you're new here, we're brothers, and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We may be young, but we love cars.
And we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family. Let's learn a lot, have some fun with all the latest cars.
Now let's go ahead and check out the interior. First, we'll look at the key fob. This is the newest Nissan key fob. It is an intelligent entry system starting at the SV trim level. Also starting at the SV trim level, you can option on remote start. This has set up right now the walk-away auto lock, so you can actually walk up to the vehicle, have it automatically unlock, walk away from the vehicle, and have it automatically lock, or just press that button there on the door handle. All right, and then checking out the interior, kind of following the theme of the exterior of looking like a bigger and more expensive SUV, you'll notice there's quite a few upscale elements with this interior, especially on the SR trim. Now, let's talk a little bit about the seats to start with here. The lower two trims, those will come standard with cloth seats. However, when you get to the SR trim, that's where you get this leatherette seat with the cloth insert. As you can see, we got the exclusive black option with the kind of orange accents running throughout and stitching details. And again, you have that cloth insert. These are very comfortable seats. We've been extremely satisfied with how comfortable these seats are, even when you're on longer road trips. And then taking a look at the controls, 6-way manual adjustment across all versions of this. But let's go ahead and climb inside. And now that I'm inside, let's take a look at the rest of the cabin materials. I think you'll be very happy with what we see here. So starting with our armrest, you have a leatherette with this interesting textured design and a double stitching detail. The top of the door trim, is covered with leatherette and a double stitching detail. As we move to the dashboard, you'll find almost all of it covered, again, with more leatherette, more stitching details, more of this textured leatherette that kind of looks like carbon fiber. And then even down here on our console, you have more leatherette for your knee to rest against. Everything in here, by the way, feels very solid, kind of almost surprisingly so for this segment where things tend to be very cost-cutty with the cabin. So we are very happy with the overall quality of this interior. Let's go ahead and fire it up with our push-button start. Now you might have noticed while I was starting up, we have a lot of screens in this vehicle. Let's get started with the gauge cluster though. What you're looking at is a large 12.3-inch display. This is, really big for a digital system in this class of vehicle for sure. This is included on the SR trim, the top trim. You can get the full customizability. Otherwise, you're going to get a little bit of a smaller display. As we pull back to the steering wheel, we've got the nice leather-wrapped steering wheel that's also on the SR, and it has the flat bottom design. Of course, it is manual tilt and telescoping. Heating is an optional feature for both the SR and the SV in the premium package. We do have it on this model. And we also have the available rain sensing wipers. Now, let's talk about interior storage. So if you were in the previous generation, you probably remember there really wasn't much storage. It was a very tiny kind of interior area. Now we've got this more conventional center console and tunnel area. When I open up the console, you can see inside of this itself, we have some donuts. That's because here at Car Confections, we like to do the donut test because that is our logo and check the volume of the center console. In this case, we have 3 donuts inside. This segment typically doesn't have a lot of center console storage, but we have a couple large cup holders right there, and you have a wireless phone charging pad and kind of this deep pit, and that's on both the SV and the SR, and you have a couple USB ports as well. One thing I do want to point out as far as usability, if you have a tall drink here, and this is a really deep cup holder, so I'm talking about like one of those giant Stanleys, not just a normal drink, you are going to kind of be in the way of grabbing this shifter. Now, taking a look at the shifter itself, you have the orange accenting around it. This is a traditional style, D for drive, of course. And then going into reverse, you'll see that we've got a 360-degree camera system pop up. This is an available option on this SR trim. Again, a pretty premium thing for this segment of vehicle, for sure. And Nissan has really upgraded the resolution versus some of their previous generation products. Up in front of that, you have an electronic parking brake with a brake hold function. Now, right above the shifter, you'll notice that we've got our climate control panel. This is a single zone automatic setup that's included when you spring for the SR trim. Everything else will have a manual control instead. It is very simple to use. You just use this little touch-sensitive toggle here, which is quite responsive to adjust your temperature up and down. And then you have buttons for your fan speeds and things like that as well. Heated seats are optional on the SV and the SR trim. Ventilated seats are, of course, not offered. That's extremely rare in this segment. Right in the center there, you've got a nice physical control for your audio system. So you have the option of 4, 6, or 10 speaker sound systems. This is the available Bose 10 speaker sound system, so let's give it a sample. Overall sound quality of this system is pretty darn good. It's certainly one of the best sounding sound systems that we've experienced in this class, thanks to having, some special features such as those signature Bose speakers up there in the headrest. Now, zeroing in on our display here, this is another 12.3-inch display matching with that gauge cluster. This time it's included on SV and SR trim levels as standard equipment. It includes Nissan's newest software, so you'll notice that overall performance, quite snappy. You also have really cool animations on board as well. Wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay are both included. Just be aware if you get the base model with the smaller display, that will not have wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. It will just be a wired connection instead. Now up top here, we've got a manual dimming mirror. Your top trim levels, will give you the sunglass holder, and you also have some LED lighting up there. And then let me go ahead and slide back the sunshade on our panoramic sunroof. This is a pretty luxurious feature that is available on the SR trim.
Now let's go ahead and check out the rear seat area of this Kicks. Now, I'm sure you're probably expecting this area to kind of stink because, well, most of the options in this segment are not very big and they don't have a lot of features. However, I'm happy to tell you with the Kicks, even for a full-size adult like myself, I'm 5'9" for reference, this seat is adjusted to Drew, who is 5'8". I still have plenty of space back here. Nissan says it's about 34.5 inches of legroom and about 38 inches of headroom. So both of those are pretty good figures. The headroom is really quite impressive for this segment, and the legroom, while it is less than some of the other rivals, I still have about 5.5 inches of knee room with that seat adjustment. Also, my feet can easily slide up underneath of the seat itself, so really quite comfortable. Also, I love these back seats. These are some of the most comfortable seats that you can get in the entire class in the back. Additionally, we do have a fold-down armrest with 2 cup holders inside, which is something that some of the rivals will cheap out on. And then as far as features here in the center, no vents, but here on the SR trim level, we'll add these 2 USB-C ports. So pretty decent feature set for this segment. If you look over at the door trim, it is going to be hard touch, so they do have to save cost, somewhere in this vehicle. And then we do have that same kind of leatherette material on the armrest portion. Believe it or not, this actually does fit my Stanley water bottle in the door trim. I was very surprised to see that. That's a big bottle, and it does fit easily in there. Now, walking up to the tailgate, we do have a manually opening tailgate. That's standard on all versions. You cannot get a power tailgate here on the Kicks. And since we have the all-wheel drive version, we do have a little bit less cargo capacity than some of the other versions of the Kicks, so keep that in mind. 24 cubic feet behind the second row of seats if I reach up here and fold them down, which they do, have this nice little toggle that makes it pretty easy to fold the seats. 60-40 split. That's going to give me a maximum of around 50 cubic feet, once again, for that all-wheel drive model. Now, if you choose front-wheel drive, it's actually going to increase your capacity by quite a bit. 30 cubic feet behind the second row and 60 cubic feet as a maximum. So that's definitely something to keep in mind, around 10 cubic foot less space with the all-wheel drive model. So if you want to save money and have a little bit more space, maybe get the front-wheel drive version. Now, as far as the cargo length, width, and height figures, that's something we do in all of our Car Confections reviews. From behind Drew's 5'8" driving position to the rear of the cargo area, we're sitting at about 66 inches of length. From the second row to the rear is about 31 inches. See how wide it is? Really quite nice. 43 inches wide. And then as far as height, we're going to be sitting at a little over 28 inches tall. Really impressive stuff for this segment. Up underneath of the floor, we have quite a bit of additional space here on this model. I do want to point out for those of you that want a spare tire, that is an available option. I think it's quite cheap as well. So if you want that extra peace of mind, you can get the spare tire on this model for just a few $100. Well guys, here we are behind the wheel of the all-new Nissan Kicks. In this test drive, we're going to be discussing quite a few different things, as you can see on the screen right now. We'll also be getting things like our signature sound level reading, finally back home in Kentucky, so we can make that official. But first, we want to go ahead and start with a hard acceleration. In the all-new Nissan Kicks. Now, as you get to see from that acceleration, it's not going to be like lightning speed quick. However, it is a big upgrade over what we had on the previous Nissan Kicks, and honestly, it's not too bad for this segment. We do have an all-new engine on board. It's going to be a 2-liter 4-cylinder engine making 141 horsepower and 140 pound-feet of torque. And when you do a full throttle acceleration, it's not going to be like super fast or anything, but the thing that we've noticed from driving this Kicks around for the week is under normal acceleration and just driving as most people who own a Nissan Kicks would in traffic and such, it's perfectly adequate to keep up with any type of traffic that you're going to be in.
Yeah, it really has a lot to do with like the tuning of the throttle response and the overall powertrain performance. You get actually a really nice surge off the line. It's just that when you're really going all out, that's where you notice that you don't actually have that much power, but that kind of first quarter of the throttle response is really good.
A little bit of a rolling acceleration. I think that's a great demonstration of the transmission. We have a CVT on board, and the thing I do like about the CVT is the fact that it has a really convincing shift simulation. For those of you that are just coming from another vehicle and maybe don't pay all that much attention to the powertrain section, I really do think that you would be convinced that it honestly has an automatic, because it is actually quite aggressive with the shift simulation. It doesn't just do it under full throttle acceleration, it does it on the average acceleration as well.
Yeah, Nissan has taken a lot of flack over the years from their CVTs, and I mean honestly a lot of it deservingly so, but they have made a lot of improvements to this recent generation of their transmission. It's nothing like it was back in the old days. Like, if you're shopping for a Nissan, not even just this Kicks, you might want to just check it out before you rule it out. Even if you think you don't like CVTs, they've done a lot to make this so livable on the day-to-day.
But now we're just cruising on the highway portion of our test drive, and I think this is a great time for us to dive into overall ride quality with the Nissan Kicks. Now, over the past week, we have been very impressed with the ride quality of this vehicle. We were impressed with it when we drove it originally back in Detroit, and then, now getting some more extensive seat time back home in our, home states roads. I've just been very impressed with it. For this segment, it does a great job of soaking up the bumps, even though we do have the larger wheels on the outside with this SR trim level. And I think the thing that I'm even more impressed with are the seats. This is Nissan's zero gravity seat setup, which is new to the Kicks this year, and we love that in pretty much every other Nissan product. And now that it's here on the most affordable model, I think you're really going to just benefit from overall comfort by having those new seats.
Yeah, these seats are fantastic. Only one little objection is just the fact that the driver's seat has a creak. Obviously, that's specific to our unit. This is probably one of the very first ones built, but it does creak a little bit.
All right, and we are speeding up to 55 miles per hour. We have our climate set on fan speed 1. Actually, go ahead and make sure it's on fan speed 1. And let's get our sound level reading.
Okie doke, that was a good sample length. We're setting at 57.8 decibels. Now, I don't have to guess how that compares to rivals because I can go to carconfections.com/sound level readings, and on there, I can compare this Kicks to all of its rivals. That's going to put this vehicle in the middle of the pack for its sound level readings. It's also a notable improvement over the previous generation.
Yeah, I can definitely feel that. I mean, just in here, it feels a lot more premium, and I think part of that premium experience is, of course, the ride quality, but also the noise entering into the cabin. So even though they've made it like taller and more boxy, per people's design choice, I think they've done a great job of keeping it pretty insulated inside of here. And now that we're back on a country road, one of the beauties of being back home in Kentucky, I want to discuss driving dynamics because, typically in this segment that is not a strong suit unless you're talking about like a Mazda CX-30, for instance. But here in the Kicks, I'm actually pretty pleasantly surprised. Now, it's definitely not going to be like super sporty or anything, but I will just point out that the steering feels quite nice and responsive. And, even driving it on a back road like this, it's not like a complete penalty box. I've actually am quite enjoying myself, although it doesn't have a ton of power, but overall pretty good. The body is also quite controlled as well. There's not too much body roll.
Yeah, it's actually a little bit of a spunky option in this subcompact segment.
But now I think it's time for us to dive into our slam dunk and airball, which is our favorite and least favorite element about this Kicks after the week. So our slam dunk for this Kicks is just the overall value that you are getting here. When we initially spent time with it in Detroit, we were very pleasantly surprised with it. But now living with it for the full week, that has really confirmed how much value you're getting here in this package. The technology works really well. It's also high resolution, and just overall, it doesn't feel like that cheap of a vehicle despite what its price tag is. So I think that's really just an impressive thing here in this new Kicks.
Yeah, for sure. Now, on the airball side of things, we already noted that they really improved this model by giving you available all-wheel drive for the very first time, but having the available all-wheel drive, also having that new, more powerful engine, does make the fuel economy go down. And I'm getting ready to tell you what the fuel economy is, but this could benefit from having maybe a hybrid system. A couple of the rivals have added a hybrid system, which would really, I think, elevate this overall experience for sure, give you more power and better fuel economy. Now, as promised, here are the ratings. 28 city, 35 highway, 31 combined with front-wheel drive. Each of those numbers drops by 1 when you go for all-wheel drive. So again, that would be 30 miles per gallon combined with this model. That's down a little bit from the previous generation since, again, you have more power.
I think it's a worthwhile trade.
I would gladly trade
that is for sure. Now, as far as our real-world fuel economy that we experienced this week, due to it being a holiday week when we have this vehicle, we did have to film it a little bit earlier than our full week of testing. However, we will be finishing pretty much the entire tank of gas, and we will go ahead and insert a picture of our real-world fuel economy so that you can see that after using most of the tank. Lastly, as far as your warranty is concerned, you have a 3-year 36,000-mile basic warranty. You have 5-year 68 powertrain, and new for 2025 is that you're going to get 2 years and 25,000 miles of complimentary maintenance. So that's definitely a nice benefit that brings it in line with rivals like Toyota. It's actually better than Honda, a little bit less than Hyundai, but definitely a good benefit that you're now getting that complimentary maintenance. And now let's talk about pricing. So with this all-new Kicks, you might have expected the price to raise a lot because you are getting a lot more as compared to that previous gen. However, really the price is not too different at all. It's only about $500 difference. It depends on which trim level you're looking at as compared to the outgoing generation. The all-wheel drive, of course, adds a little bit extra to that if you want that. And then as we land at the top-end model, so we have the SR all-wheel drive CVT. That's going to start at $27,680. We do also have the option package as well as a few accessories, including those wheels. $13.90 destination. We're sitting at $31,875, and this is pretty much as expensive as you can get any Nissan Kicks, which I think is an incredible value for this segment. Now, if you're looking to buy a Kicks or any new vehicle, we would encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes. Now, the reason you do that is because we have a tool on our website that will connect you with local car dealers in your area to get you the best price. It's also going to give you access to invoice pricing information, which is a great tool for dealership negotiation. If you'd like to take advantage of that, a link is provided in our video description, and we also have a pinned comment at the top of this video. But buying a car is about more than just the original MSRP, so let's dive into resale and reliability. First up, let's talk about resale value. As an economics graduate myself, Drew and I took the time to develop what we think is a good estimate for this Nissan Kicks potential resale value. We estimate that after 5 years and 60,000 miles, it'll be worth 50.56% of original MSRP, and after 10 years and 120,000 miles, 16.4%. Now, it's worth noting that it is going to be lower than some of the other Japanese brands, such as Toyota, Honda, Subaru, and Mazda. However, it is pretty much on par with the industry average.
Now, we've also done the same for reliability by developing the Combined Reliability Index. This takes into account several studies from trustworthy sources and combines them in a way that gives you a more holistic picture. In this regard, Nissan rates just about evenly with the overall industry average.
Now, if you'd like to learn more about our resale values, reliability data, or our methodology, be sure to go to carconfections.com/resale and carconfections.com/reliability. Buying a new car is a big decision, so you want to make sure you're making a smart purchase, especially if you're cross-shopping between different vehicle brands. Well, guys, we hope you enjoyed watching this in-depth review of the 2025 Nissan Kicks. Of course, if you enjoyed watching this video and found our 7-day impressions useful, we'd really appreciate you hitting that subscribe button down below. By subscribing, you're helping us get more cars like this down here in Kentucky for a full 7 days, so we can provide you all with those real-world impressions. If you're already a fan and subscriber, thank you so much for your continued support, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.